Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Welcome to DCTV Recap. Now the shows are back on the air and we can review and recap them and everything else like that. First off, this video is going to be covering Supergirl Season 3, Episode 1 and Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 1. If you want to watch our Flash review, you can go check that card right up there in the corner. We have a specific Flash review. We're also going to be doing specific Arrow reviews, so Arrow's no longer part of DCTV Recap.
Because you requested it.
But if you want to skip ahead to Legends of Tomorrow or Supergirl, those time codes are down in the description below. Ashley, how about it? The season has begun. Let's talk about Supergirl.
Supergirl Season 3, Episode 1, Girl of Steel. Kara deals with the loss of Mon-El by focusing her energy on being Supergirl and concentrating on a mysterious new threat. Alex confesses a secret to Maggie. A citizen of National City has a mysterious connection to Kara. Lena makes a bold move.
Okay, as we start off every DCTV recap, we're going to go with the good, the bad, a rating, and a prediction. So let's start off with Supergirl, the Girl of Steel, good. Okay, I actually thought the opening shots of this episode with Supergirl walking through the field, the Canadian wilderness that was supposed to be Krypton, was quite beautiful. The cinematography was really good, and I thought it was a really nice way to reveal that we have recast Allura, is that how you say her name, as Erica Durant's Lois Lane from Smallville.
I agree. I thought the cinematography was very reminiscent of some of the imagery that we saw in Man of Steel, which, regardless of what you think, I think is a very beautiful film. And I liked that it was reminiscent of that to me. I also liked the shot when we saw her just floating above National City with her eyes closed. I thought that's maybe the best she's looked just hanging in the sky ever.
It was a good special effect for Supergirl, but I have that in the bad, and you'll find out in a second why. All right, so let's talk about some of the family dynamics, of course. Kara's all mopey pants in this episode, but then the family stuff of Supergirl is really what makes it strong. Like, we have a nice little scene where John Jones and Wynn both say to Alex, they're like, look, you're the unrelenting seriousness one, Alex, not Kara.
And John is like, it's one of your best qualities.
So again, like, these little family moments were like really made this episode great, and actually it's what makes Supergirl unique from the other DC TV shows, yet a lot of fun to watch.
It is the singular thing that Supergirl does better than any of the other shows. There's another great scene where Alex tries to confront Kara about her attitude. And
mopiness.
And she says, Kara Danvers is my favorite person.
Great line. That's a great line of dialogue.
A great line. It's a great scene. And then there's a scene toward the end of the episode where Alex, and you know, she's had this weird, they want her and Maggie to fight at all times.
Yeah.
But
drama.
I guess. But they fight a lot. But so she asks Jean to walk her down the aisle, and they both get really emotional. She says, don't cry, because then I'll cry, and everyone here will know that we're capable of crying. Like, it was a really beautiful scene. And also, David Harewood is so good that those three moments, I think, were singularly the best moments of the entire episode.
Oh, I think the crying scene of Martian Manhunter and Alex Danvers was probably one of their best scenes, maybe the entire series.
Maybe ever, yes.
What else did you like in this episode?
I liked the lack of Mon-El. I know that was supposed to be a bad thing. And
he was in this episode, though.
Well,
twice.
But very, very briefly.
Twice.
Supergirl feels about Mon-El not being on the show that I feel, same way I feel about Mon-El being on the show.
So wait, let's see. So Kara in this episode is your emotional state when Mon-El is on.
Is in the episode, yes.
Are you Bizarro Girl?
Oh, dude, please. We actually had a really amazing Bizarro Girl episode, but
I wish she'd come back.
If they ever want me, I'll be there. I'll play Bizarro Girl.
So the good is that Mon-El not
being in this episode.
You know what? I agree.
And I will tack onto that. It was good that there was no Guardian in this episode, because we had Jimmy, and we saw him stepping up as an executive at Catco in a way that I thought was interesting, or as interesting as we can have for him. I liked his limited interactions in this episode as well.
I want to give some big praise to Adrian Pasdar as Morgan Edge. He was fantastic. He was swarmy businessman. He's kind of in this episode what Max Lord couldn't figure out in all of season 1, the actor there. Well, he couldn't figure out what to do, because Max Lord should have been this, but he couldn't quite get there. Now, if you don't know who Morgan Edge is, he's a big deal Superman character. He actually buys the Daily Planet at one point and like almost fires Clark Kent. You later find out that he's connected to Intergang, who is connected to Darkseid. So I don't think Morgan Edge is going anywhere. I thought he was swarmy enough, and I actually thought, like, Adrian Pasdar, who is from another comic book show, Heroes, I thought he, like, really did he fit there's some actors that can't figure out the camp of the DCTV shows.
Yes.
And he fit that line. I think he did a really good job, but not too campy.
I agree. And there are several scenes where we do cut to Kat as press secretary, and that address
where she's gone?
That address maybe some of the misogyny that exists in the working world. And Morgan Edge is the flip side of that, but in a way that is so well executed, and it also gives Lena something to push against in her arc.
Since she's a full-time cast member now.
Bless Katie McGrath, still can't figure out that American accent, but I love watching her, and I really liked her introduction of the Supergirl statue.
I also want to give a classic, the things I really like about this episode is connected to some old school classic Superman stuff, Bloodsport.
Yeah.
I have been waiting for Bloodsport to show in this show. He's a classic Superman military villain who can teleport weapons into his hands. He is a human, but he's like kind of xenophobic. He hates aliens. Now, we didn't get much from the actor that played Bloodsport in this episode.
He didn't have a ton to do.
Yeah, but he's dressed as sort of like the second or third Bloodsport, if I forget, like, but because the first Bloodsport is a very racist man. But I like the actor; he's got a good look. I hope he's not gone either. I hope he keeps coming back.
Yeah, he'd be a great like second in command that we ran into a couple times.
And then we get to talk about Wynn probably gets, I think, the best line in the episode. He says, "Aw," to Maggie and Alex, "You're my favorite couple."
Wynn was really well used in this episode. They spent all of last season figuring out exactly what they were going to do with him at the DEO, and I feel like this episode was such a great realization of that character's potential.
Sure. What else did you dig from this episode?
Man, I dug so many things from this episode. Like I said, I dug the statue.
I did not.
Intellectually, it didn't look as good. Maybe we'll talk about that in the bad, but
we will.
I like the idea of that, and I actually liked the setup for the sort of last act fight with the submarine.
Okay.
Now, the submarine is very silly, and to me is a very, like, 80s trope, but I like that we weren't just dealing with people attacking from the sky. I thought it was an intelligent way to have that last fight happen.
All right, we also get introduced to this mom who is concerned about her daughter, and I looked it up because you find out this mom has super strength, and that mom is Rain. She is the World Slayer. She is the girl Doomsday. She is the creature that was shot off, and of course we get that where we see the pod is underneath the ocean. She was fine, although there was a part of it, that scene, the way they edited it, where I was like, okay, what's the deal with this mom? What's the deal with this mom?
Yeah, and I felt that the way they shoehorned her in was maybe a little heavy-handed.
Well, I get a big thing about her in the bad.
Okay.
So, I thought the Supergirl water shots were beautiful. Not the CGI shots, but the ones where you could actually see it was Melissa Benoist in a water tank. I thought those looked great. I thought actually the CGI was hit or miss in this episode, but Supergirl bringing the sub out of the water was
cool.
Was a shot that they nailed it. And it looked great.
Every time they have her like lifting something over her head, it's always really cool.
And then the final thing that I have, and we'll get to anything if you have as well. The Morgan Edge Supergirl scene where she drops him on the freighter boat. Screamed, and I loved it, of like Lex Luthor and Superman from like the John Byrne Man of Steel run, where it's very much like, look, I know you did that thing, and he's like, but you can't prove it.
Yeah. She's like, well, not yet. I feel like Supergirl pulls a lot from that era of super stories.
It's a good era to pull from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any final thoughts of the good?
I thought it was a good episode.
Great. Don't get any spoilers out about your
my rating.
Blah blah blah. All right, let's go to the bad. So the opening shot that you like that I did not like. Now it was a shot. It was a well shot. It looked good CGI. Yeah. The lighting was good. The problem with it is that shot is copied exactly from Superman Returns. Even the camera angle, the time of day, and hearing all the noises, and Superman being mopey, just like Supergirl was being mopey, is a direct copy from Superman Returns. Now, you could call it an homage, sure, but we saw this shot in Superman Returns, so I don't know whether they were going for an homage, but to me, I immediately was like, oh, that's Superman Returns. I've seen this before.
Well, if you've never seen Superman Returns like me, I found it very arresting.
I also wasn't a big fan of Makad Brooks in this episode as Jimmy. When we first meet him in the boardroom, he says this line, and I was like, dude, are you even awake while they're shooting the scene? Like, he was like, yeah, she earned that goodwill. You have an edge. That's literally the energy that he's giving in this boardroom scene, which is quite weird. Also, I have another weird just logic question. Ashley, I'd love to ask you.
Yeah.
So most of the people in the meeting kind of think Edge is an asshole. They call him out in this meeting, and then he's like, "Oh, I got a delicious spread out there." What the hell was that meeting about?
Damned if I know.
We never got that.
Also, the way they dressed Jimmy and the Lena in that scene, it was really weird because they were like right across from each other. They were the only two who were not white old guys, and they were the only two wearing like the whole construction of that scene was a very weird introduction for the character.
There was also a part of me that looks like that scene was shot in either a redressed Catco space, or
definitely.
It kind of looked like it might have been Jimmy's office a little bit.
I either thought that or Lena's office, but it was definitely a pre-existing set for sure.
I thought when Bloodsport went to the Daxamite ship, it looked very similar to the Wave Rider. I was like, oh, are we using this?
Probably.
Are we trying to save some money from the copy there? Okay. I don't like Mopey Kara. Don't like her.
I don't like her either.
She's not good Mopey. That's not how Melissa Benoist excels in the part. You know, it's one of the biggest complaints that people have about the DC film universe is that Mopey Superman. And she quits, and she just acts like an idiot. And I'm kind of with everybody else in her family. It was like, look, we've given you 6 months. You know, you weren't married to the guy.
Yeah.
He was your boyfriend. You weren't even together that long.
By the way, you broke up with him like 8 times.
And she wasn't together that long with him. So I don't know what they're like. We've given you 6 months of space.
Yeah.
Also, notice how every show has jumped ahead 6 months.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
So we're all on the same timeline.
But dear God, can we not get an episode without Mon-El, even when he's probably dead? Like, the wake up moment was really it's contrived in the same way that Iris like Run Barry Run moments are really contrived. I get what you're going for. I just found it largely ineffective.
I bet we see Mon-El every single episode.
Barf.
There was also a line that bothered me. Supergirl says that she's better than humans. Does that mean, what do you think? Do you think we're getting an evil Supergirl this season?
I didn't like that line. Feels unsuper to me.
Yeah.
Evil Supergirl is something that's very canon. We toyed with it a little bit in season 1. AKA the less good season.
Yep.
So I hope not. Again, I don't love that for the character, but I think probably.
There's also a scene where we unveiled the statue where Maggie and Alex were talking about the relationship over comms.
Very unprofessional.
Yes. There's also one to be like, does Maggie work for the DEO now?
She had a police jacket on, but Alex was riding in her police car in the opening scene.
Exactly. So it's a little weird now because the DEO is also supposed to be a secret organization, although they've broken that several times.
So not a secret.
But I like the idea of what they were trying to go for. They were trying to make that scene differently. But like to me, it came on like, okay, we're supposed to be observing. We're supposed to be watching where this invisible bomb is supposed to be coming from. Hey, let's what do we have for dinner?
And we're gonna look at each other.
Hey, what do we have for dinner right now? Don't worry about the bomb blowing up there. I kind of I want Chinese tonight.
Yeah, you don't want just pizza.
I think I want Chinese. That's what I felt like. I was like, pay attention.
Yeah.
Hello, invisible bomb.
Well, they were so not paying attention that they didn't notice the metahuman.
They were so not paying attention that they didn't notice the really bad CGI for a Supergirl statue.
Yeah.
I thought that statue looked terrible, and I
love the pose of it though.
It's a great pose, but I don't understand. Like, we actually built a real statue for Black Canary in season 5. Why didn't we just build a real Supergirl statue?
That's a great question.
You know.
Tell me, Andrew Kreisberg.
Just throwing that out there. There's also a line where Alex was like, Supergirl goes underwater. She's like, she can't breathe underwater. And it's like, yeah, Supergirl can't breathe out of space, and she's also pushed spaceships around.
What?
Yes,
yeah,
so
it
what?
was a weird line.
It was a little weird. And then lastly, a bad little thing, the scaffolding over the little girl, when Rain Mom picked it up, was clearly not on top of the little girl at all.
Touching.
There was like a space of this much. The little girl was just laying there. I get it. You can't actually trap an actor. But like from they just chose bad camera angles so that you could clearly see that it wasn't on top of the little girl at any point.
Yeah, I would also criticize a lot of the way they dressed the extras in that crowd.
Oh yeah, why?
Because there were several girls who just had blue shirts with like ironed on super logos. And
you can buy those shirts from Graffiti Designs,
that
guys.
was my thing. I'm like, you can buy a nice Supergirl shirt. I have a number of them. You can buy a nice Superman shirt. You have a number of them. Like, call DC, have them ship you a couple.
Consumer products, send some over.
Yeah, like, they were just... I know you don't want to spend all your money on your extras, but they looked really, really bad.
All right, let's go straight into the rating. Ashley, based on a scale of 1 to 5 Kryptonian crystals, what would you give this episode? Girl of Steel. Great title for Supergirl.
I thought Girl of Steel was maybe the best premiere we've had.
Really?
The original pilot is very good.
Yeah.
I think it was. I like that we got a shift in the status quo. I like that we've seen these characters progress. I didn't think it was nearly as silly as it could be, which is an ongoing concern I have with Supergirl. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of this pay off. So I am going to give it 4 Kryptonian crystals out of 5.
Wow, that's high
thought
praise.
It was good.
I mean, she endorses
Also-
mopey Supergirl.
Also compared to some of the other stuff I watch. How about you? What are you going to give Girl of Steel?
There were definitely some problems in this episode, just in terms of production and storytelling. But there were also some really good things. I really don't want mopey Supergirl this season. We just got over a season of mopey Flash. Flash and Supergirl are not these characters to be mopey, so I really hope this is out of Kara's system. I hope it's only a 1-episode thing, but I'll tell you what, it brought the episode down for me quite a bit. But the other 80s burn stuff brought the episode up. I'm going to give it a 3. It's right in the middle. It's not a great episode of Supergirl, but it's nowhere by any means a terrible episode of Supergirl. It's just right in the middle.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into the future with Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, Episode 1, A Rubicon. When the Time Bureau relieves the Legends of duty, they must steal back the Wave Rider when Julius Caesar is spotted in Aruba.
Now, before we get to the good, the bad, and of course the rating and the prediction, we got to talk about some news that came out either today or yesterday. It has been announced that Victor Garber is leaving Legends of Tomorrow. Now, they have not said when. They have said sometime during Season 3 that will happen. This is sad news, but for me, the show has been telegraphing this for a long time. I actually thought it was going to happen last season, but apparently Victor Garber, I read as a thing, is getting a little tired of the grueling 18-hour-a-day schedule.
Well, he's an older gentleman.
And he wants to go do this play in New York, is another thing I heard. And he wants to live in New York, and he doesn't like to live in Vancouver. So, and as an older gentleman, I can get that where he's like, you know what, I want to go to my Broadway porch and sit there with my Broadway pipe and smoke and have my Broadway
tell
slippers.
Legends of Tomorrow to get off my lawn.
Yes, exactly. What do you think about this? I think it's a sad day, but I also understand it.
I think it's a sad day too, and I do not look forward to how we're going to shoehorn the continuing casting of Firestorm, because to me...
Yep, another Firestorm has to leave.
To me, he is the greatest part of Firestorm.
It's going to be his daughter. I called it last season.
You did. I think I think he's solid, and I think he's really improved over the course of these 3 seasons
Oh,
of Legends.
he's become a great actor,
to a point where Jax is interesting and dynamic, but Victor Garber really makes it, and I think it's going to be sad. If you kill him, I will never forgive you.
Ooh, I don't know what they're going to do. I have a feeling, you know what, Lily's baby, we're going to talk about this in the episode.
Lily's baby's going to replace him. That's what it's going to be.
Oh, wow, holy crap. Lily's baby might actually be his exit.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's just going to be a family man or whatever.
I
all right,
like that.
So let's get into a Rubicon, the good, the bad. Let's start with the good. All right.
Mick Rory wears a skirt, and it's amazing. Way to go. Loved it.
I actually, okay, we're going to talk about the dinosaur in a bit. Because the dinosaur is actually a bad I had this issue. But let's talk about Buzz Cut Rip, as I'm going to call him. Rip shows up with a buzz cut, no beard, and he says that he spent the last 5 years building the Time Bureau to save the day. I really like that. I actually kind of, because Rip Hunter is one of my favorite characters in the show, but Rip was acting a little weird in this series, but I also like that Rip was sort of successful. And now Rip has Rip, just like the Doctor, has a secret history that we don't know about now. He did stuff for 5 years that we have no idea about. I go back and forth, good or bad, about whether I liked the cliffhanger of last season, because it basically got resolved in 3 minutes.
Just like Flash.
Yep. And it allowed all the shows to do our 6-month jump. I really quickly want to talk about all the characters and their jobs, what they did for the 6 months,
okay.
Whether we liked them or didn't like them. Ashley, do you have any goods from what we saw the characters? What did you like any of the characters, what they did for 6 months?
I liked none of it, except for Firestorm, actually.
You didn't like that Mick sat on a beach for 6 months?
You know what? It's not that I didn't like that, because the payoff of the Aruba joke and how long we've been that's funny. I don't know if I believe that Mick Rory would sit still for 6 months. That's my thing.
Well, we get the idea that he's gotten several STDs.
Yeah. I think he probably would have done some thieving in that time. But Firestorm was the one that I was most pleased with, and I liked that they get together once a month to, like, bro out and...
Well, they have to touch it once a month. Or once a week.
Yeah, and do whatever it is that they have to do to continue being... I thought all the rest of them were, like, cheap inaccurate to the character and unfunny choices for them personally.
We'll talk about that more in the bad. There is one good though in all of those though. One, I like it anytime we get to see Lily, and also two,
I do like
we
Lily.
got rid of Steele's stupid helmet. Yes, because that helmet looks so dumb.
Yeah, but we didn't get rid of stupid Steel, so
I know.
50-50.
So the Legends go into the Time Bureau. It's apparently a building just in Star City. And I actually liked that at a lot of moments, we showed how competent the Time Bureau was. Like, as soon as they walked in the door, they put guns on them.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, what are you doing? Get out of here.
They are the antithesis of the Legends.
Yes, and so they call them all losers and stuff like that. And then we learned that something that's very sad and shocking and stuff like that Rip made it very clear to Amaya that she had to go back to 1942.
But she did.
She has to.
She does,
or
else all of this won't happen. I don't think that's sad because I don't want her anywhere near Nate. I think it's sad because we didn't get her on the entire episode of the show. But really,
I think we're going to.
Absolutely. If you're Rip, and thank God he's still on the show because we really need his talent to ground this cast. If you have built up this responsibility and this federation around protecting the integrity of the time stream and doing it respectfully, you have to do that. You have to impress upon her how important that is, and I think it was a good idea that he did that.
Yes. Now, I want to bring up something really quick here that is sort of could be talked about in the bad, but I want to talk about it here because we're here, we're talking about the Time Bureau. I want to ask your opinion about this. Again, I like the idea of the Time Bureau. I like the idea that like Rip did something in between scenes.
Yeah, yes.
Like he spent a secret 5 years. Again, DC loves their 5 years.
Yeah, really.
Or their 52 seconds or whatever. But I kind of wonder if this would have been better seeing him build the Time Bureau or getting inklings of the Time Bureau over a couple of episodes.
It's that's an interesting query that I feel like Peggy Carter suffered from the same problem.
With building up S.H.I.E.L.D.
We wanted to see the building of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we never got to that. And now we have the Time Bureau, but we don't know anything that brought us to this point.
It comes sudden and out of nowhere.
Although counterpoint, this is a time travel show, so we might be going back to
But it almost feels like, again, it feels like we witnessed, well, it feels like Rip is successful, but we don't get to see it on screen.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything in this episode happens very quickly. It's very Game of Thrones.
Which is sometimes a problem that Legends has, is that Legends like rushes through things. But also, sometimes it's a strength of Legends, that they run through stuff.
Sometimes it's a strength. Yeah.
Okay, so, but I kind of get it that they did it because we have to write Rip off the show very quickly because he's not a main cast member anymore. Black Canary, or White Canary, whatever you want to call her, Cool Canary, says, engines to power, turbines to speed. That is a Batman 66 reference, which is very nice. Also, there was a really great Jefferson, there's two great Jefferson and Martin Stein scenes in the engine room where first, like, Martin Stein is like, you know, oh, I don't know, Jefferson, you know, you should go back to school. And Jefferson is like, you know, I get it, you want to smoke a pipe and put on slippers and just chill. And then later on, I like that we went back to the pilot where Victor Garber was like, hey, I tricked you onto this ship. So like
he knocked him unconscious and dragged him onto the ship.
He did, remember, in the pilot.
He literally abducted this 16-year-old child.
And now that Jax is like, well, this is the only thing I got now, like Martin Stein's like, okay, I'll make the sacrifice for you.
Yeah.
Even though I want to be grandpa.
Yeah.
You know, I really, they got some really, really, really good scenes in there. Anything else you liked?
I liked the Wally West cameo.
That was cool, right?
That was really great. I dug that a lot.
Although I didn't like Wally immediately taking off his mask in front of his criminals.
No, but I like that he had no time for Nate whatsoever.
We got a really badass action scene in this episode where where we see Katie Lotz holding on to the chain of the Time Bureau agent and walking across S.H.I.E.L.D. And let me tell you, friends, the way the camera was positioned, that's Katie Lotz.
Oh yeah, she is badass most.
That was amazing. That was so good. It's like Arrow level stunts that makes the show amazing. And also, we get really quickly, we learn about, I think, this impending doom. Rip is talking to this other agent.
The unnamed impending doom.
When they mention, I think they say Mollis.
They do, yeah.
Now, I don't know what that is. I honestly don't know what it is. I did some Googling, can't find it out. I don't even know that that's exactly what he said. As far as I knew, Gorilla Grodd and kind of the Secret Society were going to be the villains this season.
Maybe it's an anagram?
Yeah, I didn't know whether that was like sort of a reference to Mala, like who is the brain and the giant talking monkey who is in
Mr. Mala and the
Mr.
brain.
Mala. I didn't know if that was a reference to that, but like I don't know. Any final goods before we go into the bad?
No.
Okay. Here are my bads. In the 6 months that Sarah spends in Star City, why didn't she rejoin Team Arrow?
Why did she not do literally anything else but work at a Bed Bath & Beyond ripoff? She's not Ash. Like, it's... No. And all of her scenes, I thought the actor who played her boss, like, he was very funny, and he was making very strong, but, like, those scenes were garbage.
Yeah.
They did nothing to tell you about the character. They did nothing to forward anything of the plot. Yeah, Superstore is great, but I don't need White Canary in Superstore.
Again, I was just more bothered because she would join Team Arrow, but I get it. But that to me came off as a production thing where it's like, oh, we can't reveal who lived or died in Team Arrow.
And it's the same question with Ray Palmer. Why didn't he just go back to the company with his name on it that all of his friends are? Why did he go for Tinder 2.0 that we used to make a sexist joke later on in the episode? Like, no. No.
Also, there's a really, really dumb joke where Rory's eating a salad and he's looking at Caesar and he goes, I hate your salad.
I actually thought that was one of Rory's got some really bad jokes this
I
episode.
know, but do we really need that joke?
The best part is it's an undressed salad, so it's literally just him eating lettuce.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, he just emptied a bag of salad into his bowl.
I thought all of the Legends beach clothes were terrible when they went to confront Caesar.
And again, why is Sarah the only one with who's exposed? Like, none of the guys could have shirts on, but yeah, they were bad outfits.
And then when Caesar took the book, The Rise of Rome, and they found out that all of time had been changed, it suddenly just made Rip and his team seem so much smarter because you're like, oh yeah, the Legends are boneheads.
But also, when was the last time you held something about the weight and size of a book in your hands and someone took it from you and you didn't immediately notice
that it's gone?
I've never been a fan of Nate, but this cements that I've been correct the entire time. He's a bonehead. Fire that guy.
And then we finally get to see the scene of Amaya and in Zambaze. Zambaze looked really bad.
It was shot in the same scene that the Supergirl scene was shot in.
No, it was shot in the same field that they shot Caesar's Rome times in.
Yeah.
And they tried to add like this fake bamboo. It just didn't look good.
She looked good though. Her like traditional clothing was really cool, and the implication that maybe she's evil or maybe she's going steps further than we've seen her going previously. Like, I thought it was an interesting moment for her.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this. There's kind of an underlying discussion in this episode. I want to talk about actually this episode almost had some feels of a series finale. I kind of felt like they could have ended the show almost with this thing. Now I get, because what they did last season is they put themselves into their backs against the wall that they couldn't fix, because honestly, I think when they broke time, like Flashpoint, should have been an entire season of time broken. But I get that they were like, okay, we can't have this one show, just like Flashpoint, be different. Although this is the show that you could be different and it wouldn't affect all the shows.
Yeah.
But I get it that they're like, well, if we have viewers watch Arrow and then they watch Legends of Tomorrow, they obviously know that the Legends fix time because Arrow's okay.
Yeah.
So I get that. But here's the thing. Rip and his team prove that the Legends are unneeded. And also it kind of brings up the idea that maybe Legends should have only been 2 seasons.
I think this premiere screams of that, because there's a lot of different ideas going on. I don't think any of them are very strong. They're not all bad, but none of them are very well executed. And you take an hour to prove again and again that all members of this team are ineffective, if not downright idiots. And if that's not the premise of your show, that we're Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and we're the screw-up superheroes, why do I want to watch them when I can watch Arrow be the most competent one, where I can watch Supergirl be the strongest one? Like,
and it is a thing.
It's tough, because I like the show a lot.
I do too, and I like the cast is so strong. The show's strong. And I kind of think that season 2 put the lid on the bonehead idea. Like, season 2, it's like, okay, we're gonna bungle sometimes, but we know what we're doing.
But you can't be idiots anymore.
But yeah, this episode, they were dumb.
Yeah.
Like, they were straight up dumb, and I was actually cheering for Rip and his team to shut them down.
Yeah, or to absorb them or something.
But I get the sense from this episode that they didn't know how to resolve that cliffhanger.
Absolutely not. They wrote that cliffhanger, and then in the 9 months that we've had since then, nobody came up with a good idea of how to fix it. Where was Commandy, guys? Like,
where was our Commandy episode?
Come on.
Yes, the Lost Boy. So, I don't know. I'm very... And I don't buy Rip just being like, take the ship, whatever.
Right. This Rip is a little harder. He's a little older. He knows a little more. He's seen some more stuff. And then in the end where he's like, they're the best chance we have. In what universe? His soft spot for them when he spends all this time fixing them no longer makes any sense, except for we sure do need them back on the Wave Rider for the premise of the show.
We need the show to continue. And now I'm a little worried that, because I really don't want these boneheads messing about with time because they're not good.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, let's go straight into the rating. Ashley, based on a scale of 1 to 5 Gideon heads, they won't be appear on screen. Don't worry about it. What do you give this episode a Rubicon? Which actually I think would be a great convention to go to.
They could invite us as guests. We'd be happy to go at any time. I think that this episode exemplifies all of the things that can go wrong with a Legends of Tomorrow story.
Yes.
We've very often seen what can go right with them, with the same type of tropes, very similar storytelling, just better executed. And unfortunately, for a series premiere, it's bad that we're getting the episode now as opposed to at episode, I don't know, 18 or somewhere later toward the middle. I am going to give it 1 out of 5 potential imaginary Gideon heads. How about you?
Now, I want to say that after this episode ended, Ashley said to me that she thought this was the worst episode of Legends of Tomorrow of all time. I then had to remind her of the season 1 episode where Jax turned into a half-bird person. And Vandal Savage was a doctor, which is clearly the worst episode of...
I think I would rather rewatch that episode.
So that is my scale for this. And this episode is nowhere near like, and like giving Jax a beak. So I give this episode a 2. It has a lot of problems. Again, and a lot of those are inherent, like we talked about, where we're like, oh, should Legends have just been a 2-season show?
Yeah.
And based off this episode, it kind of seems like the answer is yes, and I hate that the answer is yes to this because last season was so good. They got to this nice little melting part, and I'm really, really worried that the season 3 curse of DC TV shows is going to affect Legends and Supergirl. I'm really worried about that.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case. All right, let's go straight into predictions. We didn't do this for Supergirl, but it's too late now. We're moving on. Ashley, what are your predictions for the future of Legends of Tomorrow?
My prediction for the future of Legends of Tomorrow is that it's going to take us the whole first half of the season to get Amaya back on board.
Oh, that long.
And
I think they're going to do like a Rip thing. Like
yes,
Lab.
and I do think she is going to be the villainess of the first arc. I think that's what some of the brutality that we saw is flagging, and I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for her and Sarah to beat the snot out of each. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, especially since Maya's sort of evil now.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe. It's me reading in a lot to that one scene, but that's what I think. How about you? What do you think is coming down the pipe for Legends of Tomorrow?
I don't think that's Rip Hunter.
Ooh. Rip Hunter would never get that haircut, you're right.
Or shave his beard. He shaved the beard. We've seen him in flashbacks. He had the beard. Okay, either that is not Rip Hunter, and this is somebody who has captured Rip Hunter, which I don't know if they want to do again 2 seasons in a row.
Rip Hunter, the most capturable time traveler ever.
Or something happened. Something happened in this 5-year history that turned Rip like this. Because Rip, I felt, was more mean in this episode than he has ever been.
He was rather un-Rip-like.
Yes, because I would think that the meanest you would ever... I feel we've already seen the meanest Rip has been, and that's in season 1 when he's so mad about, like, I've got to save my family, I've got to save my family, I've got to save my family. And we didn't see Rip get anywhere near this level of asshattery that we saw in this episode. So to me, that tells me that either this is not Rip Hunter, or I think more likely, we're gonna find out about something that happened in the 5 years. Like I think we're gonna get a flashback episode of the Rip Hunter and find out what made him form the time. What is Mollis?
Yeah.
Whatever the hell it is. I kind of hope it has something to do with the anti-monitor. I really do. So something like that. I think there's a secret history to Rip Hunter that we're gonna find out about, and I'm really excited about that because again, Rip Hunter is one of my favorite DC characters, and I like Arthur Darvill. So
I do,
something's up with Rip Hunter. and I think we're gonna learn more and more about it. So don't forget to click subscribe, because very soon we got an Arrow Season 6 Episode 1 review coming right at you.
And why not click on one of the videos popping up on the screen, and for more exclusive geeky content, go to patreon.com/Jawiin.
We'll see you next week for more DCTV Recap. Until then, don't be a bonehead in the time stream.